morning. It's Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. And of course, we are on to newspaper review on the segment of Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Gbebo, your host on the program. Today is Leadership Conference Day. And of course, the event is about kicking off in Banquet Hall of Presidential Villa. My name is Winifred Gbebo, your host on the program. And as usual, as we normally do, we like to review front headline stories of some select newspapers, including Nigeria's most influential leadership. And like I said earlier, is Nigeria's the most influential newspaper that is hosting its award this day. And of course, the cover story is taken from today's award ceremony. It says at Leadership's Conference Awards, stakeholders brainstorm on Nigeria's fiscal federalism. Leading story on today's leadership. At Leadership Conference today, stakeholders brainstorm on Nigeria's fiscal federalism. We have Shettima leads discussion with Dangote, Wike, Eno, Yusuf, Mohammed Namadi Mba Adeleke to also grace occasion. We have the pictures of some of the awardees underneath that leading story on today's leadership. Job offers 585 fake certificates. 17 million Nigerian children still out of school coming from UBEC. 17 million Nigerian children still out of school. I'm reading leadership cover story this Tuesday. Labour Party threatens OBOT with suspension. 23 killed in Kebbi, Katsina, Taraba. We have 2027, don't abandon Tinubu, APC governors tell CPC block. 2027, don't abandon Tinubu, APC governors tell CPC block. And on the business page, airports of the paper, we have tariff war. Nigerian stocks join global plunge, lose 659 billion naira. Tariff war. Nigeria stocks join global plunge, lose 659 billion naira. And atop the masthead of leadership, Remi Tinubu donates 1 billion naira to tackle cervical cancer. How troops secured SNYSC boss General Sigar's release coming from Defense Headquarters. Of course, it has been a trending story ever since the retired general was released, with another school of thought saying that a ransom was actually paid. Why today, Defense Headquarters, obviously in response to that, says how troops secured SNYSC boss General Sigar's release. Still on leadership newspaper, we move to the page 3 where we have our stand. Today's stand is on NNPCL, Ojulari, and the challenges ahead. NNPCL, Ojulari, and the challenges ahead. From page 3, we move to the back page where we have Tuesday column with Abdul Rauf Aliu. Today is writing on tariffs. The back page, can we have the back page on the screen? The back page of leadership. For more, this is where we end today's leadership review. For more, don't forget to log on to the website of leadership. From leadership, we move over to The Guardian. The Guardian says, leading story today says, Trump's trade war fuels recession, fears disrupts federal government's 55 trillion naira fiscal plan. The story is on page 6 of The Guardian. Trump's trade war fuels recession, fears disrupts federal government's 55 trillion naira fiscal plan. We have the picture of petrol price USD per barrel, and that is the illustration beneath the leading story on The Guardian this Tuesday. Amnesty International demands probe into police assaults as protesters want Cybercrime Act repealed. We engender better modern police force, Tinubu pledges. Presidency hopeful of $1 billion CNG investment by year end. End killings, insecurity across states, Falana tells federal government. EU pledges 300 million euro to support Nigeria's fight against terrorism. EU pledges 300 million euros to support Nigeria's fight against terrorism. The story continues on page 4 of The Guardian. That takes us to the stories just beneath the masthead of The Guardian. OBOT lead charge as Labour Party enters make or break showdown. 2025 Hajj, confusion as federal government debunks report on Saudi entry ban on Nigeria, threatening orders. Bandits kill 4, abduct 45 in Katsina local council. That concludes review of front headline stories on The Guardian this Tuesday, April 8, 2025. For continuation of these headline stories, log on to the website of The Guardian, www.guardian.ng. From The Guardian, we move to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is The Punch. The Punch is talking local government autonomy. Governors block council chairman from opening CBN accounts. Governors tighten grip as central bank rules out stringent account opening guidelines. The story today gracing the cover of The Punch. Local government autonomy. Governors block council chairman from opening CBN accounts, and CBN on the other hand rules out stringent account opening guidelines. The leading story on The Punch this Tuesday. We also have the picture of protesters yesterday in some state capitals, FCT, Port Harcourt, Lagos, and as police disrupt protests, deploy choppers. Members of the Take It Back movement protesting in Lagos and Abuja against the 2024 cybercrime law and the imposition of state of emergency in Rivers State on Monday yesterday. Kebbi governor seeks permanent military base over Lakurawa attacks. Terrorists kidnap over 50 cases in Katsina. Banditry, Northwest States tackle ACF over call for emergency rule. Banditry, Northwest States tackle ACF over call for emergency rule. And that takes us to the story beside the masthead of The Punch. 2027, APC governors visit Buhari amid associates defections to SDP. And above the masthead of The Punch, U.S. imported $643 million Nigerian goods into asylum in Nigeria, coming from UN. Leading story, one of the leading stories on the cover of The Punch newspaper this Tuesday. 78,000 Cameroonians others sought asylum in Nigeria, UN. Factional firestorm, Obi Abure camps clash over parallel neck meetings. The story is on page 2 of The Punch newspaper. It is on that note we conclude review of front headline stories on The Punch this Tuesday. Don't forget to log into the website of The Punch for more and continuation of these headline stories. Let's head up to the Daily Sun and see what Daily Sun is offering today, Tuesday. Daily Sun is talking about the protests that rocked Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt yesterday. It says emergency rule fall out. Protests rock Lagos, Abuja, Rivers, orders. Police tear gas arrest demonstrators. We disperse migrants, not protesters, coming from police. We have a picture of the protest that took place of the streets in Abuja yesterday and Lagos underneath that story on this emergency rule fallout and protest. Federal government to adjust cost of coastal highway over design modifications, coming from Umahis. Terrorist group Lakurawa kills 16 in Kebbi village. Pegasan event threatens strike over NNPC recruitment. World Head Day, First Lady ROHI donates 1 billion naira to fight cervical cancer. Just beneath the masthead of the sun, Saudi Arabia visa, Nigeria not bad, federal government. And just beside the masthead, Labour Party crisis meetings, OBOT summons INEC meeting, stakeholders engagement. Abure led next with regional caucus leadership, Sats Ogene, names Etana Bene, slams OC, OB for alleged anti-party activities. There's no end in sight yet for the Labour Party crisis, and arising from the Supreme Court ruling. The crisis seems to deepen with parallel factions having meetings. From that Daily Sun, we move over to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is The Nation. The Nation says federal government allays fears over 14% some trade tariff. Economic team assessing impact on budget 2025 assumptions to determine response. Abure-led Labour Party threatens sanctions on OT, Obi. They lack power to call next meeting. Tinubu committed to well-trained, tech-driven modern police. Story runs on page 3. Of course, the Nigerian Police Force celebrated this day yesterday, maiden edition of the program. First Lady's Renewed Hope Initiative backs battle against cervical cancer with 1 billion naira. Akpoti Uduaghan slams 5 billion naira defamation suit on Uwemboyi. The story runs on page 2 of the Nation. Police dispersed protesters in Abuja, Port Harcourt. Guided march in Ibadan, Lagos. More troops for deployment in troubled Plateau communities. 19.4 billion naira contract fraud. BPP director testifies against Sirika. APC governor's visit to Buhari, a show of unity, strength. The story continues on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. It's on this note we conclude review of front headline stories on the Nation newspaper this Tuesday, April 8, 2025. For continuation of these headline stories, don't forget to log in to the website of the Nation. So, as we conclude the first half of today's program, Inside Nigeria, don't go away. We have the second half of the program coming in shortly with our guest already in the studio. Stay tuned. Don't go away.
Get ready for the Leadership Awards and Conference 2024. Join us as we celebrate excellence across various fields, honoring those who've made remarkable impacts. Award categories include Person of the Year, Quinquennial Award for Governance and Infrastructure, Governors of the Year, Business Person of the Year, and many more. Stay updated by following us on social media and visiting our website, leadership.ng. For sponsorship and inquiries, contact us today. Leadership Award and Conference 2024, celebrating excellence, inspiring the future. Get ready for the Leadership Awards and Conference 2024. Join us as we celebrate excellence across various fields, honoring those who've made remarkable impacts. Award categories include Person of the Year, Quinquennial Award for Governance and Infrastructure, Governors of the Year, Business Person of the Year, and many more. Stay updated by following us on social media and visiting our website, leadership.ng. For sponsorship and inquiries, contact us today. Leadership Award and Conference 2024, celebrating excellence, inspiring the future.
Leadership Celebration. My name is InsideNIGERIA, your host for the program. And of course, we have our Tuesday guest, who's a public affairs analyst, Benedict. Thank you so much. Very pleasure to have you on the program. Yes, what are the papers saying? Of course, we are heading up straight to what Trump is saying this Tuesday. One has his leading story on local government autonomy, and he says that governors are blood council chairmen from opening CBN accounts, and the same CBN has rolled out freedom local government check. What are we having here? Because we've seen a situation whereby despite Supreme Court ruling, there's still no effective way of implementing that ruling. And when we saw that the AGS did go to court to ask for interpretation and what is it that, first and foremost, Supreme Court always wants to rule in a vague manner? Why?
Well, I can say that Supreme Court rulings are vague. I think they are straightforward. It is just that
but we are still having the same situation with Labour Party, with Abure claiming that the Supreme Court actually ruled in its favor.
Well, the clear instruction will always be that I don't think that the Supreme Court rulings are vague. These things are written in simple English that we all can understand. But the practical reality is that we have a people who are so used to what they have that, like children, they see these things as their cookie jar. And so the only way they understand is holding on to it. It's just as simple as that. You see a child even on the brink of danger, he would rather fall than to allow the cookie jar to fall. And I think sometimes that's what we get from individual interpretation of the Supreme Court. And when we come to local government autonomy, we did know that the governors never wanted it. When Buhari did an executive order, which was meant to make them autonomous, the governors have to rally around and sit down and negotiate, and then got it out of the way. So basically, we would want to see that the governors are enjoying the status of emperors in their state. They don't want to government, because when that happens, it stifles their power and limits their control over the entire state. And I think that what they need is not control. Headship shouldn't be by announcement. Headship should be by responsibility. If you take the right responsibility, your people will see you as that, and they will fall in line.
So what will we have enough? Because the CBN, on the other hand, is really our student account opening guidelines to this local government check. What is happening? And to be faith, because the report that the AGF is going to court will get, I don't know, further interpretation on this on the Supreme Court ruling. What is the right way? Because many people, as it's here, are already saying that the Supreme Court ruling is actually an opposition ruling to stifle opposition. How true is this?
Definitely, the APC have governors, PDP have governors, and I think Labour had one. So to a large extent, therefore, if you would ask me, I don't see local government autonomy bill or suit as it is. Because if it is an opposition ruling, then it should have been so easy for everybody in the APC to have adapted to the principle. So it's not only Anambra or Abia or the PDP states that are having issues with the ruling. Even in the APC state, have they abide? Because assuming all the APC governors have been able to work with it, by now you should be saying we are 40% or 50% done.
Because there are school of thought that said that we have an APC state in Edo State where the governor took it upon himself to even suspend the elected officials and nothing happened. Whereas the same cannot be said for other opposition states.
It happened everywhere. Osun is still there. Some other states are there. Osun is a PDP state. So the local government in Osun is having problem with the governor. So it's not only in Edo. It's happening everywhere. What we are saying is this. Take party issue away from local government matter. It is an affair of the emperoric governors against any other person having control or say in how the state runs.
So what is the way forward? What is actually the way forward? Because it's one thing to get Supreme Court ruling. There's another thing to be able to enforce it and make sure that the governors hold the line. Because the governors are still used to their old way of doing things. Like you mentioned that they are emperors in their domain. So what can be done? You know, they want to do whatever they like. They wouldn't want a local government to check to say, oh, they want to carry out development in their domain. They still want to be the one to be calling the shot.
Yes, the National Assembly need to make some more laws. For instance, when the governor can no longer control who becomes the chairman, to a large extent, it will reduce some of their influence. But as of today, with the state INEC, you realize that the governors determine who becomes.
We actually saw what happened during that those local government elections. Even in a state that we expected otherwise, where we have a Reverend Father as governor, we saw the videos of trendy videos of the party actually printing, and the governor said nothing. Likewise in other states. So what can we do about taking charge of that state? I know. No,
the thing is this. Number one, do we actually need the state INEC? I don't think we need it. Let's have the federal INEC run all the elections, because general elections are done in every electoral ward. All the 8,800 or thereabout electoral wards in the country participate in the general election. And INEC have presence in them, and those elections are done in those polling units and in those polling booths. And I know that apart from Delta State, virtually every other state runs the same number of constituency or number of electoral wards as is done at the federal. It's only in Delta that you possibly have 500 electoral wards as against about 328 or so that the federal government has allocated there. But apart from that, every other state The number of wards is the same. The number of local government is the same. So why can't we leave the federal INEC to run this election? If the governors can allow their election to be run by INEC and the state assemblies are run by INEC, what's wrong with running that of the local government? Basically, it saves the state even some funds. There will be no duplication of resources. And of course, there will be more trust. And in my opinion, as our electoral processes improve, there will be more transparency. But you're going to have issues with local government because ab initio, we are a people that are recalcitrant. Yes. A lot of Nigerians does not want to follow any procedure or any rule. You want to do what is convenient for you, except you are coerced or boxed into a corner. Go on the road, we don't obey traffic lights. Go into the offices, people come late and they don't see anything wrong in it. Go there at 3 o'clock, some people had already gone home. Go to the churches and people don't want to sit where the ushers will want them to sit. So we are a people that are naturally recalcitrant when it comes to following processes and procedures. We don't like it. We want to rule it for others, but we don't want it on us. And that is what we are having with the local government, with the CBN, with everybody across board.
All right, thank you so much. Now, we've been talking about local government autonomy, and incidentally, the federal Nigeria's fiscal federalism is what stakeholders are brainstorming today on leadership's conference awards taking place right now. We've been talking, there's been so much talk about federalism, fiscal federalism. Can we ever achieve that? We saw what players in the region start before.
We obviously can achieve that. You see, like we keep saying, you need to know that one of the biggest challenge we have is people's respect for processes and procedures. The more we evolve a system that will conform and encourage people to live within processes and procedures, make it possible for them to be challenged or to be questioned irrespective of their height. We saw Boris Johnson in the UK. If Boris Johnson as Nigerian president will get away with all those things that he has done, and nobody would have been able to force him to resign. But the parliamentary system has a way of bringing in some measure of control. And we saw that in the end, whatever way is clout, whatever way is excuses, it was eased out of office. So perhaps the system of government we run today does not resonate with our culture and tradition. And I would always say that's why from 1990 till date we have not learned much, because the learning that is available in the so-called presidential democratic experience does not resonate with the people that we are. Maybe in the American states we're talking of just racism. You're not talking about tribes, you're not talking about religion to a large extent. But for us, there are more than 3 religions. Even though we want to claim we have only 2, there are more than 300 ethnic nationalities, even though we are trying to say 3 are major. So the reality is that in each of the domains you get to, you have kings, you have kingdoms, you have religion, you have group of people, you have settlers. And so those complexities are not appropriately, in my opinion, addressed in the presidential system. And because it is not addressed, it then makes it difficult for certain rules to be formed. Somebody is saying, no, if you have lived in a place for 10 years, you should be considered as an indigene. No. What happens to the indigene of the place? What happens in the territories in Nigeria where you cannot buy land, irrespective of the money that you have? So how do you live in a place where you can never own your house? Even if they call you a citizen, you are an indigene, you are a second-class indigene, because you cannot even buy land to build your own house or build your own business. So to a large extent, therefore, there is suspicion across board. Some people believe, oh, just come do whatever you want to do, go back to your land. We cannot accept you. So the same person rejecting people in his home from owning land cannot say because he has money or is enterprising, he should own land in other states. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So be that as it may, therefore, you will realize that we need a system of government
In a parliamentary system, non-indigenous will contest and they will win. Why? Because it's part-time, it's based on how you have related with the people. So nobody will be thinking he's not an indigene. Because when you say that you are not an indigene, they assume you will take their resources to build your own state. I think it was Governor Alamisia when he was governor. He said, if I steal Bayelsa money, I am a Bayelsan. I will spend it in Ijoland. He said, but when you bring an outsider as a governor, when he steals our money, he will take it to his state. And that is not good for the people of Bayelsa. So when you look at that element of mistrust, then you will understand that we actually need a system of government that resonates with who we are. Across Europe, you won't find a full-fledged American presidential system. Everybody have one form of democratic and one form of parliamentary system or the other. And they are kings. They still have kingdoms. They still have territories. They still have princes across Europe. And they are so respected. But because we are trying to bring in the American system here, we are actually trying to kill every traditional system, make the kings and the clan heads irrelevant. And now we have security crisis and we have other issues. Because you have made them irrelevant, because you have weakened them, then they cannot actually rise up to take responsibilities that ordinarily should have been theirs to take. In the days when they were important, you can't be a visitor to come and live in their territory without properly registering. So when you come in as an hunter in a village, the king or the ruling person knows that an hunter has come and is from so and so place, and they profile you properly. If they have war or battles and they think they will need your expertise, they incorporate you. But that's because when you came, you introduce yourself, they know you. But in the current system, we have desecrated the traditional institution. But now you want them to take up responsibility for security. You have taken the authority, the powers away from them. You've taken the authorities away from them. So where do you want them to suddenly bring it in and begin to run? So until we get to a system of government, which I believe should be any form of parliamentary, that agrees with our culture and tradition, then we are not ready for fiscal federalism or for any even meaningful development.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, Nigeria seems to be experiencing the surge in security issues, like we've been seeing killings, intensified killings in Benue, and just recently, Plateau, with about 52 dead, and even the fatalities is rising. What is happening?
Basically, it's still there. Is the issue of, do we call it resource sharing? Do we call it confused policies? Like I said, a presidential system deceives us to say we can forget our differences. Differences in terms of tongue and tribe and culture are not what you can forget. It's something you need to understand and then it forms basis for living together. In these places that we are talking about, do the aliens start living there just yesterday? No. People like Lawal Uwais should be a former CJN, should be above 90 now. I'm sure he was born in Jos. Even though he's from Katsina, from Kaduna State, I think. He was born in Jos. Several other people like that. Yakubu Gowon was not born in Plateau, possibly was born and raised somewhere in Kaduna State, in the current Kaduna State. People have been born out of their home, and we have lived together for years. But because over time, things are emerging, and then we are living more and more insincere, then the prayer will begin to come on resources. You now have collusion, and you now have inordinate ambition. You now have resource allocation. Maybe some people now have powers and they are grabbing land. The land that is available to share is becoming too small.
Honestly, because if I may chip in on that note, because we've been reading about it or reports that we've never really. A colleague lost the dad, and we just came back from leave, and we asked him if the burial has already taken place. He said no, that there's no way. They are from Benue, that they are taking over his village. That as we speak, they have taken over their village, that they don't really know what to do. At and they need to go and bury. So these things are real. These headers, they sack the community and they just start living there.
No, that's what we're saying. Where were they living before? Right? When they come into the territory and the environment, were there relations? If you now think that, okay, so that you don't disturb me and I don't disturb you. Is it Genesis 13? Abraham called Lot his nephew. He said, bros, make me define boundary so that my men and your men will not continue to quarrel. So you can therefore say, okay, let's designate this area for grazing. Let's designate this area for residence. Possible, you can build walls. If possible, just separate by barbed wire. Make provision for everybody to exist, right? And the indigene knows I'm indigene. The settler knows I am a settler. But we have gotten to that point where asking somebody to leave, right, may not be the total solution. I'm from Ondo State, and I know that in Ondo North, there were Fulani children born there in the 50s and the 60s, and they never knew any other home. Ondo North. If you know Ondo North very well, you will know that the dialects are scattered. It's about 48 communities. Akuko is about 48 communities with about 47 different languages. Some of these Fulani people speak those languages. They speak the general Yoruba. They are schooled in that environment. They possibly don't know any other home. So it will be a function of defining who lives where and what should be the basis of relationship, rather than generalizing. The people who are peaceful and want to live with you should live with you. Those who are not ready to live, then can of course go. If there are people who live in your bushes, they should be registered as the resident of the bushes, and the registers of those forests should exist. So when there are crises or untoward incidents in that part of the community, you know who is supposed to operate in that territory, and you hold them accountable. And because they are known and that can be held accountable, they should be able to know that, okay, these guys have infiltrated us, so we don't know them. And they will report to the king or to the system that has been created. But we have a lot of issues. Fundamentally, like we said, we have desecrated the traditional system. And that because it has been desecrated, every Dick and Harry, every Tom and Jerry can begin to lay claim to thrones. And because they have laid claim to thrones and they needed money and resources to feel like big boy, because the funds from local government is not coming. I'm told all royal fathers in Nigeria are meant to be under, they are employees of the local government, because the local government pay their salary. I think a percentage of local government allocation is what is shared to them. So to a large extent, therefore, you put them under local government chairman. The local government chairman cannot even get sufficient funds. He is getting stipend from the state. So some of them are beginning to also look at what should ordinarily be legal. Something that are not moral and ethically right. You now have royal fathers who have cattle that are being kept for them by some Fulani men within their territory. And so when there are issues, most times it is even possible it is the cattle that belongs to the royal father that is responsible for the havoc. So if you bring the matter to him, the chances are that he may look away. So we need to really redefine our system. We need to really redefine our security architecture. And like we said, the hunter, the market woman, the farmers, they all should have a place for saying something when they see something without having a backlash for saying what they have seen.
Oh, thank you so much. As you well know, protests rocked some cities yesterday, including the FCT, Lagos, Rivers, and Ibadan. The protesters were protesting against the cybercrime law and the emergency administration in Rivers State. Now, how will you address that one of cybercrime acts that they are
Well,
doing this?
Cybercrime Act, I've always stated clearly. If it is only for the purpose of gagging the press or gagging free speech, we will say that it is wrong. However, we have also seen people pronouncing people that are alive dead online. So because of the irresponsibility, I think that we actually need a law that can hold you responsible for what you are saying. The law does not prevent the man who has spoken the truth from saying the truth. Because if eventually you are held under the law, you will go to court and prove yourself that you have stated the truth. However, it is those who are using the social media irresponsibly that, in my opinion, that should be afraid of this. So freedom of speech should remain freedom of speech. And people should be... Now, the freedom after speech is determined by whether you have said the right thing or the wrong thing. I've always told people you can criticize without abusing. You can protest without destroying. You can gather and express your opinion. But when your freedom, exercising your freedom of right, begin to impact negatively on the freedom of others, it is not right. I keep telling people that I've seen several reports about SARS protests. The people who died in ambulances are not mentioned in those protests. Yes. People who missed their lifetime opportunity because there was traffic and they couldn't get out of Kaduna to catch their flight in Abuja were not mentioned in that report. Yes, some people have exercised their right, but they have alienated the right of others. People who should make it to the hospital, who could have made it to the hospital, died on the way. Some couldn't get the ambulance to get to where they are. So when you protest, you are free. But just make sure that you are not inappropriately depriving others also of their right. You have your right to protest, but please make sure that the right of others are preserved within you expressing your anger.
All right, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program. But just before we go, lastly, though we've seen the trade war coming from Donald Trump, U.S. president. Lastly, just before we go, I want to find out, does Nigeria have anything to fear with this 14%?
Well, we are an importing nation, so we should have everything to fear when you are talking about import. If you say 14%, 14% might look low, but see how it impacts. You are going to take a loan, maybe at 30% interest, right? When they slam 14% tariff on that item, that increases the amount that you need. And that loan will include accounting for that 14%. So it increases what you are paying back as interest, and that increases the bottom line of your price per unit. And so it tells you that if care is not taken, in the time to come, we will see another round of inflation coming. However, to mitigate this, we need to look more at local production. We need to get Ajaokuta working. When we get that done, we would have done a lot in reducing our import. Because a lot of things we cannot produce here sometimes are because of steel. So let's get that done among other things that are going on. A lot of cottage industries in agriculture. There are projects there in the university that students have designed. Milling machine, threshing machine, this, that. But of course, when you look at the cost of importing the steel from India or China or anywhere in Europe, and then you factor it, by the time you produce, it's not going to be attractive to the people in the village. But if our steel is local and you are not paying freight, you are not paying duty, you're going to realize that those prices can come down much more, and then you will need less import. So if you are slamming tariff on our export, it will still go out.
Export don't see.
So apart from oil, I don't think we are doing so much with the US. And we now have local refining. So it tells you therefore that if it becomes difficult to export, you can actually still do some more local consumption. You just need to negotiate some more with the refineries on ground and around.
Thank you so much. That is our take-home message today from the site of Inside Nigeria. Of course, it's always a pleasure to have you on set, Mr. Benedict. I look forward to having you same time. My name is Unifor Bobia. This is where we draw the curtain for today's Inside Nigeria. Don't forget to join us for another fresh edition of the program. Same time, same station tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.